castles, cyberpunk dystopic bathhouses, and a fairy garden that must be seen to be believed. We are here at the ancient seat of the Hungarian kingdom. This is the best photographer in all of New York City, Lucas Goldman. He's on a big European adventure, and we are here exploring Visegrád and the Danube bends. So here we can see a feast. There's King Károly Róbert, the famous 14th century king who made Visegrád his royal seat. And to the right and left of him you have Casimir the Great of Poland, and Johnny Luxembourg, the Czech king. Now 1335, that was a very happy occasion, a feast. But it was just 5 years earlier that Károly Róbert and his wife, the Queen Elizabeth, survived the brutal assassination attempt from Felician Czar. So who was this Felician Czar? He was a turncoat, a traitor, a rebellious rogue. You see, at the start of the 14th century, it was a time of chaos and anarchy all over the Magyar lands. The Árpád dynasty, which had ruled Hungary for over 3 centuries, had died out, marking an era of transition and turmoil. There's the famous legend of the raven stealing the ring from Mátyás Király, King Mátyás. That's a little bit later on. That's end of the 15th century, middle of the 15th century. We're still in the 14th century right now. As King Károly Róbert, the Angevin king, he beats off the other contenders to the throne to consolidate power and usher in a new dynasty into the Hungarian lands. Here he is, Károly Róbert, Első Károly, Charlie Roberto, King Charles I. He reigns all the way until 1342, July 16th. And it was a time of transition for Hungary, as we mentioned. There was a lot of contestants for the throne during this Árpád anarchy at the beginning of the 14th century. And as well as a lot of contestants for the central power, there were many upstarts in the provinces and the outskirts who thought, well, you know what? In the midst of all this chaos, it's time for me to consolidate my own power. Wow, look at those breathtaking views. You can see where the Danube bends, the Duna Kanyar. It branches all the way on an almost 90-degree hook. We have the town of Nagymaros right across there. Oh no. Lucas, what are you doing? Why did you try to take over power from King Károly? No. Now you will suffer the fates of the executioner's axe. Oh, rose for you. Now of all the principates, barons, and nobles vying for the throne in the wake of the death of Harmadik András, the last Árpád king, the most fearsome of the lot was Csák Máté Csák. And his base of power was up there in the mountains of the Felvidék, modern-day Slovakia. His seat of power was in Trenčín, as it's known in Hungary. And he ruled lands all over Moravia, the Felvidék, the north of Hungary, and Nógrád megye. And one of his most loyal bannermen was the aforementioned Felician Czar. Yeah, I believe this is the tattered banners of Máté Csák after his rebellions were suppressed, because 1308 Károly Róbert is crowned, and Máté Csák, during the next 10-11 years, he's causing all sorts of problems for the new man in charge, for the new Angevin king. And Máté Csák, he's leading rebellions all over the north of the country, and fierce bannermen like Felician Czar are helping him have incursions and really mess with Károly Róbert's power base. But in 1321, Máté Csák is finally conquered and killed, and thereafter Károly Róbert makes Visegrád his royal seat and builds up the fortress, which was originally constructed in the wake of the Mongolian invasion, in the wake of the Tatajáras. In the 13th century, King Béla IV, Negyedik Béla, you know him, you love him, the second founder of Hungary, he erected stone fortresses such as this all over the country. And then for the next 80 years or so, Visegrád, it grew in stature. It became a more prominent place in the Magyar Királyság until it was finally made a royal capital by Károly Róbert. And as for Felician Za, he knew that it was no longer time to fight against King Károly. No, no, no. Instead, he swore him loyalty. He swore him fealty and said, I'm done causing trouble for you, King Károly. I'm your new man. Elnézést. Lehet csinálni az csillagot?
Jó, egy pillanat.
Aha, köszönöm szépen.
Úgyhogy nyugodtan odaállhattak ki, amelyikben te hölgy.
Kellemes ünnepeket neked.
Viszont oda is.
Nagyon jó bajusz
Jó,
vagy.
köszönöm szépen. Na most mondják, mit szeretnének.
Ez a...
Jó, de mivel?
Hát, hogy hívnak? Tárdobo?
Jól tud dobni, vagy rosszabbul?
Rosszabbul.
Rosszabbul, jó,
Oké.
akkor ezt adom, mert
Jó.
az a jobb dugóknak van.
Oké.
Tessék ide jönni. Itt.
Oké. Köszi
Ettől
szépen.
tessék megszabadulni.
Oké. Lehet a...
Want me to?
Yeah.
It's recording,
És
right?
akkor az úr menjen le oda a padnak a sarkához.
Sarkához. Oké.
Én egyet dobok. Oda menjen le.
Oda menjek. Ja.
De le.
Jó?
Ne, oda le a pad sark.
Hey! Köszi szépen. Próbáltam.
Vegyek ki.
Holy shit. Fucking got him. Helyen! Király! Sziasztok! Okay, we depart from Visegrád Castle and continue our adventure. Kellemes ünnepeket mindenkinek. Kellemes ünnepeket. Sziasztok! Elnézést. Kellemes ünnepeket. All right, that was part 1 of the jean jacket adventures. On to part 2. Hello. Köszi szépen. Kellemes ünnepeket neked.
Köszönöm, viszont kívánom.
Jó a sapka, az a macska?
Aha.
Jó, tetszik.
Köszi.
Szép napot.
Köszönöm, hello.
Oh, look who it is, Kisvakond, the little mole. In Czech, he's known as Kurtek. He's a hero of mine. Wow, so look what we got here. This beautiful, old, dilapidated, abandoned, graffiti-laden bathhouse. A real trip back in time. Ho. Dystopia, post-apocalyptic, wonderful vibes. Out here in the Lepence Village, the Lepence Valley. Szeretnék egy sört kellek. Hogy vagy? Hey, hol vagytok? Nem tudom. So back to Mr. Felician Za. As it turns out, he was even more of a turncoat than I had originally feared. Because he didn't even wait until Máté Csák was dead to make his move over to the side of Károly Róbert. It was 1318, 3 years before Máté Csák eventually succumbed to the Angevin forces, that Felician Za said, Mr. Károly, I'm gonna help you out. And his daughter Clara became one of the ladies in waiting for Queen Elizabeth. And Felician Za was given many lands and bounties and riches as a result of his turncoat treachery. In 1321, as we mentioned before, Máté Csák is dead. Felician Za, he grows in stature, and for the next decade, he accumulates riches and influence and power within the new Angevin regime of King Károly I. And it's on April 17th, Easter Sunday, in the year 1330. 1330. And King Károly, as well as Queen Elizabeth, and their sons, one of which included the future King of Hungary, Nagy Lajos, aka Louis the Great, the royal family, they are having their Easter feast in the halls of Visegrád Castle. And that is when Felician Za, he makes his move, and like a wild beast, he lunges at the king. He strikes him in the right arm, and then he goes for Queen Elizabeth. Cuts off four of her fingers. He's a rabid dog, this turncoat, Felician Za. But thankfully, a brave man in arms, a certain János, son of Sándor, of Sarospatak, saved the day. He came in, he charged Felician Za, and he severed his head from his neck. The head was sent to Buddha, and they chopped up the rest of him and scattered his bloody remains to every direction in the realm as a warning for those who would dare challenge the power of the Angevin kings. Wow, check out the old bathhouse technology. This could be a little bit of a time travel mechanism. You never know. You never know. So, what was the motivation? Why did this Felician Za, this turncoat, why did he decide to commit regicide? Even though he failed in his assassination attempt, why did he give up his cushy job with the king and make such a brazen and risky effort? Well, there's many theories about this, but the leading theory is that, you know, Queen Elizabeth, Erzsébet as she was known, the queen of King Károly Róbert, she was a Polish woman, and her brother was a man who would one day become the King of Poland. We saw him before at the table in Visegrád, King Kazimierz, but at the time he was only Duke Kazimierz, and he was a young man with mighty sexual appetites. And as we mentioned, Felician Za's daughter, Klára Za, she was a lady in waiting for Queen Erzsébet, Queen Elizabeth. And they say that Kazimierz seduced Klára Za, and for that her father Felician swore revenge against the entirety of the royal family. And whether or not it is true, the point remains that he did, in fact, make his attempted regicide. And he failed. And he failed. And it was thereafter that King Kazimierz and Elizabeth and her husband, Károly Róbert, and Johnny Luxembourg of the Czech Republic, as it was known back then, the Czech Kingdom, it was thereafter that they consolidated their alliance. And 5 years later, the Visegrád Pact would be signed right here in Visegrád. Who knows, perhaps the kings lounged together in thermal springs just like these. And it was that Visegrád strategic alliance that would set the table. Ooh, Kubanya Isha Egeshek. For Nagy Lajos, Louis the Great, to eventually take over power from his father in 1342. And it was during the reign of Louis the Great, as the 14th century progressed, that the Hungarian kingdom would reach its apogee. A kingdom that they said stretched to 3 seas: the Black Sea in the east, the Baltic Sea in the north, and the Adriatic down in the south. A massive, massive, massive empire that would eventually shrink and crumble as the years went on. But it was during that 14th century that the Hungarian kingdom reached its height. Nagy Lajos, Louis the Great, Károly Róbert, Queen Erzsébet, Duke Kazimierz, Felician Za, and his daughter Klára. Some of the names that left their mark on these here hills in the middle of Castle Country, in the middle of Hungary. All right, well, Jean Jacket Boys Part 2 is done and dusted. It's time to head out to Part 3 and beyond. Lukey Laika, look at him go. Look at him go. What do you think of the dystopian bathhouse?
I
just incredible. Never seen anything like that in New York City. Looks like something from a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. It really does.
The jean jacket boys are going for part 3. Sziasztok, Kisoroszi, Macskák. Oh, Székújás. That means National Park, Nemzeti Park. All right, we're taking Luki Laika down to the final stop of the day, Kisoroszi, Little Russia, the Szigetcsúcs, the island seat, one of the most magical, mystical, transformative places in all of Magyarország. Oh, it's not overcast anymore. No, no, no. Look at this lovely, gorgeous day. For all of you adventurers in the audience, this is the place that you need to come this summer. A nice sandy enclave betwixt the Pest and Buda side of the Duna. The water drains away, creating this fairy garden effect. Dunderkert. And there we can once again see Visegrád Castle nestled atop the blooming spring trees. Oh, what transcendent glory we have been met with. Gyönyörű. Nagyon gyönyörű. You gotta do the little rope the dope. In the summertime, you'll see plenty of people pitching up tents all around the end of the island. Music, bograch. Oh yes. Oh yes. What an Easter. This is a much better Easter than when Queen Elizabeth got her 4 fingers chopped off by Felician Za. But hopefully she was able to come out to a place like this and recover. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh yeah. Woo. There he is, Luki Laika.
This is... Sky has opened up.
Yes, it has.
We've got good light. That's all the kid cares about. You can take away his livelihood, his home, his house. As long as he's got good light, he's in the money. Oh, and do we have good light? Thanks for joining us today, folks. What an adventure it was. Visegrád and Kisoroszi, a wonderful combination. Castles, cyberpunk dystopic bathhouses, and a fairy garden that must be seen to be believed. Hungary, Hungary, Hungary. You remind me again every spring why I love ye so. There's a 1% battery.
There's 1%.
All right, rock skipping challenge, Szigetcsúcs in the direction of Visegrád. Gotta find a good rock. Oh, this one looks pretty good. We'll take, gotta get one more backup just in case. The key here is to look for something nice and flat, but not too flat, with a little bit of weight to it. So I think these two will do nicely. And then you gotta get the wrists nice and loose, nice and loose, nice and loose. Find a good footing. Get down low to the water, nice and parallel. A little bend to the knees, and just like this. Nemros.